Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast, episode 35, is it, Rukshan?
35, yes, and we missed last week thanks to me.
No.
I did put my hand up that I wasn't feeling too well last week, so I had to skip out on that. But yeah, we're back with episode 35. And
What
there's
do you want to say to the
cool
audience?
comment that I've already seen a cool comment that you haven't put up on the screens that says, "How
What
do
was
you all love your opinions, Rukshan?" Like normally, if that was about you, that would be on the screen. So we should get that comment on the screen, make sure everything works. But hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Opposition Podcast. It's good to be
What
back.
was the cool comment that you claim I missed?
Can't you see it on your screen?
I'm looking. What is it? What does it say?
Just love your opinions, Rukshan. It's very astute.
You said cool comment. I didn't actually see that one. Seriously? Oh, yeah. Hold on.
You got a filter on that. Just removes Rukshan's posts.
Anything positive of Rukshan comes up. Well,
that actually blocks my face.
Yeah, that's better. So, do you want to apologize to the audience for the fact that you missed last week?
I already apologized.
Okay.
I gave everyone a break.
House rules, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start here. We've got two special guests tonight. We're about to introduce the first guest. Both fascinating topics about things that have happened this week. We're going to go at the end exclusively to the opposition.show for the last few minutes. So if you want to come there and hang out with Rukshan and I, help me hang. Are we allowed to swear? We can hang shit on Rukshan at the end. Are we allowed to say that? Or is it? It's a bit naughty, Rukshan. Join us at the opposition.show. And obviously, for those of you that become Rebel News Plus subscribers, it is helping us at Rebel News continue doing what we're doing. It's $8 a month. And it helps cover the costs. It also gives you access to my Tuesday night show, the Mini Report, which is way better than every one of Rukshan's show, and all the other documentaries and shows on Rebel News. But the best part of it is you get to help us with the viewers. You get to help us cover the costs of doing all the work we do at Rebel News. Now, without wasting any more time, let's introduce tonight's guest. Who have we got here? Rukshan.
Well, I'd just like to welcome Suelen Winston, the leader of the Trumpet of Patriots. Suelen, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Rukshan, it's Suelen Wrightson. So.
Wrightson.
Yeah.
What did you say, Rukshan?
Oh, it's hard to get good help, isn't it, Avi? It's just hard to get good help.
Yeah, I would never put Rukshan and help in the same sentence.
What did I say? Winston Wrightson.
Yes.
Right.
So,
this is the problem with unvetted immigration. We bring people into this country who don't speak English.
But often people get my name wrong all the time. So this is one for the one for the immigrants. There you go. Suelen Wrightson, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So you guys have had a pretty big week, haven't you?
Oh, we certainly have. We were in Canberra last week to an absolutely packed press conference, which was incredible. We were there in Canberra with I should say I'm the leader of the Trumpet of Patriots. It's an absolute honour to be leading a political party heading into the 2025 election. And yeah, we had a very exciting week. We launched our party last week in Canberra to a packed press conference. All of the, the heads of the legacy media were in attendance, and I think they know that whenever Clive Palmer puts his hand to something, it's definitely going to be interesting, and it's certainly what I believe is pivotal to this nation. So we've hit the ground running.
So what we'll do is we'll have a quick watch of this video here that's on I'll just zoom in there. There we go. We didn't check that screen. Let's see. This is the problem with Rukshan. He just does nothing. Let's watch, I believe.
And in time, a good and a just emperor.
Is this the ad? This is your ad?
We've got to make Australia great, put Australia first.
There's no one quite like Australian billionaire magnate Clive Palmer.
Across the face, I'm dropping sweet rhymes, I spray verbal mace. I smash up.
That's it, baby, that is it!
That's the man that should be running the country.
He can twerk!
I've been working for 2.5 hours trying to download Shrek 3. The NBN's a joke. Turnbull's a joke.
Self-made and essentially retired at age 29 after real estate success,
I think it's
he has
a
never
news
hid
video
his
about him.
ambitions from the public eye.
What'd you say?
It's a news video about him. It's just like a little bit of a teaser
Crony,
about
aren't
Clive
you?
Palmer.
Certainly not. I mean, what is a crony? Are you a crony?
It's actually kind of entertaining. So, Trumpet's a patriot. I guess we're going to ask the question that most people are asking is, firstly, why Trumpet's a patriot? I get it has Trump and patriot in it, which would excite Clive, but it is actually kind of hard to remember. I only think of like top, T-O-P, so I can remember it. But why is it Trumpet's a patriot?
So the name was actually the name of an existing registered political party. It was on the register of political parties. And I was in Canberra for the High Court hearing. I'm not sure if your crew, your viewers are aware, but Clive Palmer challenged the decision of the Australian Electoral Commission to deny us registration of the United Australia Party. So we challenged that in the High Court, and unfortunately we lost. And upon hearing that we'd lost that High Court challenge, we were approached by the people that had the Trumpet of Patriots party. And I think you're right. I think Clive was pretty excited about the Trump part in the name. Maybe he felt like it was an omen. For me, I love the patriot part of the name. So to me, that says Australia. It's the most important thing. It's what we should all care about. So I kind of thought, well, yeah, we can make that work. And you're right. A lot of people are referring to us as TOP now, which is easy to remember. And we might have to consider putting that on the ballot paper when we register our lodge our nominations with the AEC.
Yeah, it's actually, I was going to say, Avi, it's actually grown on me, to be completely honest. Trumpet of Patriots. Like, I know you say that it's hard to remember, but it's actually something that's been talked about by people. So from a marketing sense, everyone's been talking about the name. And I think if you're going to mirror up some of the things we'll discuss with you later on, Suelen, around the policies, a lot of Trump policies, I think, that kind of matches up and it might work. At the end of the day, we've had all types of different names of parties, so I don't think the big issue.
Like, if they didn't have a reason to change it, I think they've just got one because somebody like Rukshan's excited by it. It can't be good. Aren't you trying to attract people with higher IQ?
You guys have heard of the saying, it's not about the colour of your skin, it's about the content of your character. And in our instance, it's not about the party name, it's about the policies and the things that we'll do for Australians. So I have seen some really funny stuff on X, though, I've got to say, like people that don't like us, not happy about us, having a fair contest in this election. Obviously, they're from the Labor Party or the Greens, clearly, but they're quite creative. They've, there was like a bum with like a trumpet coming out of it.
I saw that meme. I saw that meme going around
with like fart sounds and it gives me a bit of laugh. I need a laugh during the day to get me through the day sometimes, but they're quite creative.
I guess one of the questions that a lot of people are asking, and probably myself, there's a couple of questions, but it all kind of falls into the same area. When he came out with the announcement, it was a big announcement going, and people were excited. It was about consolidating, I guess, the minor party, the right-wing minor party, whether it's conservative to libertarian in that space. And when he said that he was going to make an announcement, people think, okay, what's he going to do to consolidate it? And then the announcement was essentially another party. How does that consolidate stop it from splitting that I guess right-wing vote? How is that consolidating it? How is it not just making another party?
Without any disrespect to any other political party in this contest, like hand on heart, no disrespect to them, but this country needs a third force, a third player. We've got two and we need three. And by having an alliance with minor parties, it's not going to set us apart from the others. That's the first point. The second point is we may not necessarily agree with the policies of the other parties, and that's very important. And while we all believe in freedom, while we all do not want to be censored by the Labor Party, while, you know, we have a lot in common, the Trumpet of Patriots is going to be the third political force in the nation, and we have the resources to match Labor and Liberal. No other party does.
So and that might be true in this election. Didn't they change the rules? I think it's targeted pretty much at Clive, where in the next election he won't really have the ability to throw the money at it. And to be fair, let's be frank, in the last election he also threw more money at it than I think Labor, and he ended up with one Senate seat as opposed to, let's look at One Nation. They got a few seats. I can't remember. Well, at least they got Hanson, they got Roberts, then they got a bunch of other MPs in there, which I think a lot of them have left by now. But they, when you gauge the success, so spending doesn't necessarily mean success. Outspending Labor doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get more people in. Why should people care that he's spending more, and why should it? Why do you believe this time's going to be different?
So you need to understand, and just on the One Nation point, Pauline was re-elected to the Senate, so she has a 6-year term. So Pauline has another 3 years to run on her.
Yeah, but didn't she? She ran in the Did she run in the last one with Babette in that one?
So Malcolm Roberts was already a senator, and
Yep.
It's a 6-year term. So
Yeah,
Malcolm's up for election this time around.
Okay.
So, but in terms of the spend, you've got to understand that. For everybody that got sick of the mainstream media throughout COVID and we just all turned our TVs off, that is one element of society. But there's still a good number of people, and, you know, whether you call them, you know, the normies or the mainstreamers, whatever, you need reach in every corner of this nation, and that takes money. So it's one thing for a minor political party that doesn't have a lot of dollars. If they do a really good marketing campaign, sure, they can have some reach. But for us to be competitive on equal footing with the other major parties, you have to spend money. It's just a fact. Labor and Liberal have had the benefit, Labor have certainly had the benefit of Australian Services Association and the unions to prop them up, and they have an ongoing and a sustained method of funding. Liberal Party have the Cormac Foundation and other ways that they continuously fund themselves. We have Clive Palmer, and thank God he cares about this country. Thank God. I mean, what price at what price should he stop defending this nation? So he's all in. So it comes down to getting our message out. It comes down to getting the reach. And if we want to be competitive with the duopoly, we have to be able to fight them on an equal footing. And I think that's definitely what will set the Trumpet of Patriots apart. We'll have our core policies. May not be the same as the other parties, but I wish them well. And when we did do our party launch in Canberra last week, Clive Palmer himself put out the invitation to other parties to join us in this fight. That invitation still exists, by the way.
In what way? In what way?
They could come and join the party and fill in an application to contest a seat. I don't know how far down the track they are, but they're more than welcome to join our party and put in an application to stand as a candidate.
Sure, but I guess that's telling them to give up on the party that they made. But when people say, why didn't you just join, let's say, One Nation, that's already kind of an established party, a well-established party with a decent history that's managed to get a few people up, and take Clive's means and put it behind something like that. Why wouldn't they do that?
We tried.
Did you?
The short answer is we tried.
And what happened?
And Pauline said no.
We want the juicy stuff.
She has her own reasons for saying no. And out of the greatest respect to all political participants on the right. I will never have a bad word to say about any of them, because there's enough division as it is. And ultimately, one day we'll all be fighting together in the same direction. I know that. It's my job. I'm the front rower in 2025, and I'm going to bust up the middle of the Labor and the Liberal Party, and I'm going to pave a way for others to follow. That's my job.
Where are you running?
In the seat of the Hunter in New South Wales. So interesting because we've announced that we're running. They got Jim Chalmers in the electorate today. They got him down there to nurse the current little. He's not little. He's a big guy, but the current sitting MP. He's a Labor MP. He actually claims to be a coal miner and supportive of the resources sector, but unfortunately it's the Labor Party that wants to squash the resources sector. So it's all kind of, they've...
Was that electorate traditionally a Labor safe seat?
It's always been Labor. It's always been as safe as houses. But this year, because I've announced I'm contesting the seat and they know I've got a lot of political fight in me and will and love for this country, we've got them running scared. So there's a lot of there will be a lot of attention on the seat of the Hunter. It's always been taken for granted by the Labor Party. But, you've just got to think about how many Australians are hurting by Labor Party policies. And I think even the most rusted on Labor voters are going to be thinking twice about giving their vote to Labor. They're not going to give it to the Liberal Party. They'd probably walk off a cliff before they did that. So they may consider giving that vote to somebody like me.
I watched some of that press conference that Clive Palmer and yourself did in Canberra, and one of the overarching things was really relating everything kind of back to what's happening in the US as well, in America. Do you believe those fundamental changes that we're seeing Trump and Doge and Elon are making, do you think they'll resonate with Australian voters as well? Do you think Australians are watching and waiting for that here as well?
We know because we've done some polling. So we did polling a number of weeks ago, and the question was around, do you support President Trump-style policies that are being rolled out in America, and do you think that would be applicable in Australia? Would you support it? And overwhelmingly, we've had yes, we would. And who is going to go against the Department of Government Efficiency and all of the incredible stuff that Elon Musk and his team have been unearthing? I mean, my goodness, talk about stem the flow. And I just wonder whether Albo hasn't, fired the starter's gun for the election because they're busy at the moment, because while they're still in government, they've got the shredder, running overtime, and they're like, oh my God, if we're not back in government, how do we cover up all of this, these special grants that have been given for, particular overseas, feel good ideological purposes. So, it's but that's the first place. That's the first thing you do is you look at where Australian taxpayer dollars are being spent, and you put a big red line through it and
would
say
you cut,
no more.
Would you cut Rukshan Centrelink?
Well, we'd certainly put him through the griller and get him to getting to get off his bum and do some real work.
Get a job, mate. Go back to wedding photography, mate. Oh, mate.
No, he's a good guy. Of course, we wouldn't pick on him.
So I guess from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the angle this party is taking, the way they're framing it, is essentially all Trump's policies bringing him to Australia. Is that right?
Well, look, we're going to have a look at what has worked really well for them, and this is not uncommon. Governments will always have a look at what legislation is rolled out abroad, what seems to be working for their citizens. I mean, our guys aren't very original. If you have a look at the censorship legislation, that was just a copy-paste of the Digital ID Act. So the Muppets in Canberra and Michelle Rowland and as minister has got nothing. In fact, she just infuriated me and millions of other Australians with this copy-paste. And you know what? Australians said, go, love, get on your bike and get going, because we're not going to accept it. So if you have a look at that, it's not uncommon for governments to have a look at something that's worked really well. And the Trump model has worked fantastic. He will drag that economy and that country back from the brink.
He did announce, he's planning to open. I don't know if you saw the video. Gaza Tower, Trump Tower. Is Clive going to build one next door to him?
I did see like a golden balloon floating around that had
AI
like
video.
President
Yeah.
Trump's
Did you see
face or
that?
something on it. I actually turned away for a minute because I didn't really know what I was looking at. Look, I'm sure Clive would love to do something like that if he thought. No, in all honesty, to get back to what they're doing on American soil, they're cutting the waste and they're cutting the lunacy. And when I say that, I talk about Trump has come out and said there is a man and there is a woman. And we believe exactly the same. There is a man and there is a woman. And I really don't think that, I honestly believe if a child is confused about their sexuality as a child, they need to be loved and nurtured and supported by their parents. And when they turn 18, they can decide what kind of person they want to be. But between being a little person and growing up into a big person, they do need support, whether that be some kind of counselling, whatever it is. We just have to support them until they're old enough to make their decision. Because imagine, kids doing something that is medically, clinically irreversible, and they go through their lives regretting that. And a lot of them actually commit suicide. So that's super important. And let's face it, politicians don't want young people voting until they're 18, okay, because they think that's a super important decision. Well, the most important decision is your own body and your life. So we're big on that. We've just got to get back to
it's a super important issue, definitely. Like I see, like obviously Trump can sign executive orders and get that stuff passed through, which is easy for him to do. It's a bit different here. We've had all the state premiers, like even Jacinta Allen here in Victoria, come out and say, well, we're not going to follow Trump. He's a bully. And, you don't have to worry about that stuff happening here and so on. But do you think it's possible, perhaps, if this is kind of the policy issues that Trumpets of Patriots is interested in, we might see some big billboards saying, there's only two genders, things like this. Is that kind of the campaign that you're looking at? Or is it more of a, on Australian domestic policies more so, if you understand what I'm saying? Like, are you going to touch on those major US themed issues that we're talking about, or is it going to be towards Australian policies when you're discussing, your advertising, for instance?
Yeah, it is definitely something that we will raise in our campaign without a doubt. I as leader of the party, and I'm a woman, I believe that a man should not be able to compete in a woman's sport, for example, boxing, and beat the living daylights out of a woman, and the woman, is looking down the barrel of, severe brain injury, and it's an Olympic situation. She pulls out through. She's actually said she thought she was going to die. So this is lunacy. It is lunacy. We don't need, he, him on the bottom of an email to work out who somebody is, because I'm not looking at them. I'm only reading the words that they've sent to me in an email. I mean, the world has gone crazy and Australia has gone crazy. We've just got to, bring it back to the centre, bring it back to some kind of normality. And there's far too much attention paid to all of this. What someone does of an evening, what they do at home, if they want to dress up, whatever they want to do, that's fine. You just don't have to force your views upon me, because I'm entitled to have my views. And then you've got all of the other things that come into it about, the religious views and what someone, how someone should be able to express themselves. We've got the hate speech legislation that was fast-tracked through the parliament right at the very end, where the duopoly, the uni party, got together and rushed it through. And I just think that possibly was a step in the right direction, because it's little tiny baby steps of intrusion into our freedoms. So they just take little bites away at a time, and one day we'll wake up and we'll go, okay, well, we've all got gaffer tape across our mouths, we're not allowed to say anything. And that's a form of government control. So they do it by stealth, they do it in baby steps, and they do it under the guise of, if you look at Julian McGrath, the e-safety commissioner, again, Michelle Rowland's, number one superstar for censorship, I was so encouraged to read recently that she had lost in a tribunal, independent tribunal, there was and going back in, I've read a lot in recent days, but I believe that the E-Safety Commission had sent something to a portal at X, which is typically used for legal notices to be sent across to the social media service to have posts taken down. Well, what Karen did, her department started sending things across to X to this portal, but it wasn't a legally required, it wasn't a legal notice. It was just like, oh, we don't really like this post, could you be nice, or could you do us a favour, maybe take this down? Well, they abused their power and they abused their privilege. And it was so good to see that this young girl who'd put a post up, I think the post was about, it was something to do with a particular club in a primary school that was exclusive for children that identified as had a different sexuality, or it was a club just for kids. And I think this young woman, she's probably a mum, she said that she didn't agree with it, because why should kids be separated if we're all about being tolerant? Why is this little exclusive club there, and why is the school kind of fostering this club and sort of almost to some degree promoting it? So that was the mother's view. She was entitled to make that view. And then you have the E-Safety Commissioner coming along and censoring stuff like that. Now, when the E-Safety Commission was started, I think it was started under the Liberal Party from memory. It was about 2015. Now, her job, and they get at what's called a letter of expectation, and that lists all of the things that the E-Safety Commissioner, in her role, all the things that she must do, all of the things that she must fulfil. It's kind of like her KPIs. And in that, it was all good in the beginning, because it was about child pornographic material being on social media. And let's go after these predators. And everyone was like, yeah, what a great idea. So that was in, fast forward to 10 years later, and she's taking down posts from a mum who has concerns about her kids being, excluded, and that there's this, club going on in the primary school. So that is the baby steps. And that's how far we've come. So we have to push back.
Yeah,
hard.
absolutely. And you're absolutely right about that. And you see that with all legislation. That's a problem with legislation. That's the problem with passing legislation, because they're often either passed with good intentions, but then later abused, or they're, from the beginning, their intentions are nefarious, and they just use, I think like the digital ID for the kids under 16. I think that's all actually nefarious, and they know from the beginning how they plan to already abuse it from day one. Quickly, before we let you go, because we've got another guest coming on, what are the main policies that is important to the patriots of the trumpets of patriots?
Okay, we announced. Well, we gave a general overview of 3 policies when they were announced in Canberra. First of all, it's waste. Okay, we can do so much more for the people, to help people, cost of living pressures, little kids that can't eat. There's breakfast programs being run at the moment for kids because their parents bloody well can't afford to, to buy decent food for them. It's just an absolute tragedy. So we need to look at waste and get some immediate government help to the people that are most in need. I'm so passionate about that. So waste, energy is huge. I mean, who's happy about wind farms being, installed right through ripping through the middle of our farmland? Talk about food prices. They will double. The more of our farmland that's destroyed by these wind farms, my goodness, that is just not on. So we need to look at the energy situation.
What would you do with energy? What would you do? Nuclear?
All the way. But we've got to keep the coal-fired power stations on until we can get
And what's your third one?
Going. Sorry?
And what's the third policy?
Oh, look, there's lots there. I think for me, it's the a man is a man and a woman's a woman. Okay, we're going to come out very strongly and say that people should have the right to say what they believe in, and they should, if they don't agree with a little boy being allowed to play in, girls football or girls basketball, then that's okay. Parents should be able to say that. So we want to really open up the conversation about that. But we've got lots more. We've got lots more policies.
So
immigration,
all those policies, for example, I think the Libertarians, One Nation, and even I don't know what the Liberal Party is on the gender ideology stuff, but both nuclear and what was the first policy you mentioned?
Oh, waste.
Waste. I think they even announced a Doge.
Yeah. People can't get into a home, right? People cannot get into a home because of immigration, because Labor has rolled out the red carpet. It's a quick sugar fix to the economy when you bring in people. And what they have done is they didn't think about where these people were going to live. And what it means is that there was already a shortage of rental accommodation. Well, now it's ridiculously out of control. And Australians are paying far too much for rental accommodation.
I think a lot of people agree with all that. What I'm trying to understand is what's different between, let's say, especially the minor Labor, Conservative and Libertarian parties. When it comes to those policies, I think you all agree. What is a point of difference between you guys? So the trumpets of patriots. Trumpet of patriots.
The winners will come out on top.
And One Nation or the Libertarian, on those three issues, I think they all agree.
I don't want to sound awful. I don't know what their policies are. I haven't looked.
Okay.
And that's the honest truth. I think our policies are exactly what the Australian people are going to be looking for. And mind you, we want to get that swinging voter. So our reach will go out to the nation, and I expect former Liberal Party, voters to vote for us on the wind farm issues potentially and energy. And then you've got the Labor Party voters who will vote for us because we're going to stand up for Australians and make sure their kids can get a square meal.
Okay.
So,
quickly before we're going to go, I just want to I want to show you a video from the leader of the Libertarian, and I want your reaction just before you go.
Okay.
He says
the topic of possible cooperation between minor parties ahead of the federal election has been the hot topic on everyone's lips since Clive Palmer acquired the Trumpet of Patriots Party and announced his decision to contest the federal election. The Libertarian Party has long said that we will engage in good faith discussions on collaboration, and as I've posted here before, 18 months ago I attempted to engage Clive Palmer and others about a plan for genuine Senate cooperation in a coalition ticket. The election will be called within the next few weeks, likely for 12th of April or 17th of May, and the window for genuine good faith discussions about cooperation is rapidly closing. Accordingly, the Libertarian Party's federal executive has decided to invite representatives from all minor parties to a summit to be held on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss possible ways forward and possible options for cooperation. These may range from formal Senate coalition tickets to a grand primary strategy to simply discussion of preference flows and ensuring minor parties preference each other before the majors. If representatives from Trumpet of Patriots, One Nation and others do not attend a summit of this nature, then we can only conclude that they are not genuinely interested in more wide-reaching discussions of cooperation, and we will shift our focus to running the best federal campaign we can and not allow ourselves to be distracted by this continuing conversation. I would invite members and supporters of all of these parties to encourage their representatives to attend, and should nothing come of the summit, reassure them that I, as lead Senate candidate for the Libertarian Party in Victoria, have committed to continuing these discussions immediately from the Senate if elected, and also committed to genuine cooperation and collaboration.
Anyways, we get the point. What's your reaction to that? Will you join the summit? Will you guys?
So Ross Cameron is the chap that is the president of the Libertarian Party. I know that. And it's up to him to reach out to the chairman of Trumpet of Patriots. This is not something that candidates discuss, and it should be in their constitution like it's in my constitution. So I'm focused on policy and getting out there in the media and getting our policies out there. And whatever happens in the background is done by the party executive. So I'm not sure whether they've reached out to the right people. But like I said, our invitation was put out to them. You should be a party that has conviction and strength and ready to take on Labor and Liberal. You shouldn't be a party that sets yourself up to say, I need other parties to help me get across the line. That's, you've got to have strength of character.
Sure, but
you've got to believe
the way
in
our
yourself.
the way our system works, you do need, especially minor parties up against the big parties. You need the minor parties to preference each other before the major parties to ensure that anyone has a fighting chance, and not to split the votes of people that all agree with those three policies. I guess as the leader, or as even a candidate, would you not want to ensure that they are in negotiations to work with the other minor parties, not even just for the other minor parties, but for your chance, and also for the fact that people that believe in those policies that you just mentioned, all three of them, I know they agree with, for the people that vote for you because they believe in your policy, that their vote doesn't go to waste if you don't get up. And if history is anything to go by, the chances of there being more than one or two of your candidates that do get up is low. It just hasn't happened before. I hope not. I hope, for me as a voter, I agree with a lot of the most of the policies probably that you guys will come up with, and I think they cross over with the Libertarians and also One Nation. I might find here and there a different issue, but I would love to see any of them get up. But I just don't want the votes to be wasted. Let
me tell you something that nobody has considered. Okay, we are the new kid on the block. We are the trumpet of patriots. The Libertarians were putting out on social media for a long time that the UAP would not be participating in the election. Okay, so what they should have done was planned for their own campaign. They said to the public that we wouldn't be participating in this election. So they should have already have had their ground covered, their campaign sorted, and they should have already done the negotiations with the minor parties that they believe that they could align themselves with. We have been around for 5 minutes, and we have our plan and our focus. So I don't feel bad for 1 minute. And I'm saying this in all honesty, those guys should have had their houses in order already. And I know that we're going to get enormous reach because we have the competitive advantage of being really well resourced, and we're going to fight as hard as we can. I'm going to fight my guts out for Australians. And without sounding, I'm thrilled that there are so many parties that have similar values to ours. We've got to do this. We are one party wins. Look at what the Greens have done as one party. One party wins, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to give it all I've got. The invitation's there if the other guys want to come to our party, throw in their applications, but I would have thought they have had their game plan sorted out by now. It's not the trumpet of patriots coming in and, wrecking things for them. It could have been any other party that's come in. But I think they're worried because they know that Clive Palmer has a lot of resources to direct at this because it's just so important.
I don't speak on their behalf, and I don't really it doesn't worry me if they're worried. I'm looking at it from the voter's perspective. Somebody that is certainly going to vote for minor parties, I'm interested to know, if you don't get up, where are you going to place that support? Although, I know I can manually direct my own preferences, so it doesn't really matter.
That's right.
I will number it one by one, but I guess there are a lot of supporters out there that would be interested. Anyways, lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll catch up with you.
Thanks for having me on.
Where can people find you?
On,
and where can people find you and follow you if they're interested in what's happening?
I'm actually at Suelen W on X. I've been on X for quite a number of years. Obviously, Trumpet of Patriots is our website. We'll have our policies, our formal policies announced up there soon. And I think we're not too hard to find certainly if you go looking. So I love this country, and I'm going to give it everything I've got. And I wish all of my
You want my vote 100%? You want my vote? Commit to deporting Rukshan. Commit to deporting Rukshan and Iron.
all the parties will jump
Hey,
on board with
Rukshan,
this.
I think he's going to stop picking on you. Do you feel like you're getting picked on? It's like, have you got like a
Look,
workplace
It's
I
all right.
hope-
Suelen,
policy
what I want to say, Suelen, I think because you're channeling all these Trump things for the trumpet of patriots, you have to come up with your own Trump dance as well. Like it won't work otherwise.
Oh,
You're gonna have to do a little Trump dance.
Didn't we see Clive do the
or
twerk?
Clive? Yeah,
I
you
know,
and Clive are gonna have to get up there.
yeah. Clive, actually,
we
I was
need a bit of
with him when he
entertainment.
twerked. Oh my goodness. That was at the Kyle and Jackie O studios.
Yeah.
And I think Shakira made twerking like cool at that particular time. And
I'll give him that.
wow.
He is entertaining. All right, we've got to run because we've got our next guest waiting in the
Thank
green
you, guys.
room.
And
Thank you
for
so much.
everything that you're doing to bring our message to the people. Love you lots, and I hope to talk to you again.
Thank
Thanks, guys.
you.
Thanks, Suelen. Thank you.
Bye.
There you go. Interesting. Look, I think people are going to take it however they want.
Yeah, honestly, I think she made some good points. Because I think, look, a lot of this, I've seen a lot of the commentary online, and a lot of the minor parties, some of their supporters aren't happy about all of this, but I don't think they're just worried about the resources not being allocated towards them. That's the thing. And at the end of the day,
each minor party thinks like that, but I think as the voter,
it's a democracy. It's a democracy. Things will figure themselves out. Obviously, we want to see as many minor parties candidates get up as possible, and I do wonder sometimes, beyond the echo chamber of X, in a way, how some of the messages of these parties will resonate with the public. And Clive Palmer, love him or hate him, he has the resources to put massive billboards out there that says there's only two genders.
But history has shown that's just not enough.
Look, that was post-COVID era. This is a different election. I think something else could happen.
Look,
I think
I'm personally happy if
see.
any of them get people up. I just don't want them splitting. I just don't want people wasting the vote. So,
of course,
I'm happy to see any of those minor parties. I like actually all three of those. I like. The Libertarians, One Nation, and Trumpets of
There's
Patriots,
also
whatever it's called.
There's also Gerard Rennick running as well.
He's got one as well. Yeah, I didn't really know his one.
Yeah, People's
But I'm
First,
happy to see those guys go. All right, we've got our next guest. We'll bring him in because he's been waiting patiently there. How you doing, sir? Yeah, you could fix up your camera. I could probably come a bit out. No, I've got you. Look at this.
There you go.
Look at the control I've got here. There we go. How you doing, sir?
I'm very good, Avi.
Introduce yourself. Tell people your name and who you are, and we'll start there, and then we'll watch your little video.
No worries. Councillor Steve Christou, Cumberland City Council. I've been elected since 2017, part of the inaugural group, and former mayor of Cumberland City Council.
What's the best thing of your local area? What makes your area good?
Our multiculturalism, our diversity. We have people from different parts of the world, but it's Western Sydney. And in Western Sydney, what you see is what you get, and the people will give you their shirts off their back. That's what makes us so good.
Western Sydney's been. It's not. Is it the same council? It's not. Where in Western? What areas?
We cover Granville, Marylands, Greystanes, the old Auburn Council, Wentworthville, Toongabbie, Lidcombe, Barella, right next door to Parramatta.
Okay, I used to work around there. I used to door knock in. I used to door knock for AAPT in Parramatta, Bankstown, and
15 minutes.
All those kind of areas. Many years ago. Don't know how safe I'd be these days, but let's watch this. What's happened? Or do you want to give us a summary? What you proposed, and then we'll watch your video. What was the proposal in council, and when was this debate?
Yeah. Okay, so for a while I've been saying that welcome to country and acknowledgement to country has been overdone. Our residents are sick and tired of it. They just want to be equals, and we want equality. We don't want to promote one particular group of people above others, and quite frankly, we shouldn't, be making people feel uncomfortable by saying never was, never will be, never ceded your land. We had the old Anglo pioneers come to Australia and settle Australia. Then in the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s, we had the migrants come out. They all worked and contributed. work 6, 7 days a week. Some of them didn't know what a day off was. A lot of them died on the job. And to tell these people that they're not going to get a voice or say, and that they have to sit through a welcome to country and listen to, they're basically that they're guests in this country that they were either born in or chose to migrate to and have the pleasure of being citizenship is just wrong. And people are sick of it out here.
Which is interesting that you're taking up, because you would think, you just said that one of the beautiful things about your area is the diversity. What's the kind of what is the nationalities in that area? Is it, I know Bankstown and that's very Middle Eastern. What's your
Middle Eastern is a big part of it. Overall, Cumberland has roughly about 150 nationalities in it. The top nationalities are the Chinese, the Lebanese, the Indians, the Nepalese, and you've got your sprinkles, you've got your Maltese, all those groups, different groups. Your Greeks, your Macedonians, your Italians. It's a very very mixed race of people. But I've covered the Koreans.
Yeah, because look, what you said is diversity is one of the nice things in your area, and then you generally people who say that would be the first to jump in and say, we got to start this meeting with recognizing the elders of past, present. That's kind of the woke leftist starting point, and they're the ones that generally you see coming, at least the government coming out of those areas. Why are you not? So what? Firstly, do you think diversity for diversity's sake is a strength, or do you think diversity is only good when people are contributing? And why aren't you like those other ones that think that that you do, us as immigrants, we do have to respect the First Nations people?
Look, to be perfectly honest, I think I think multiculturalism and diversity isn't working in Australia, especially when people aren't integrating. I come from a diverse family. My parents are Greek Cypriot refugees from Cyprus. They came to Australia in 1976, but they made Australia their home. Them and many millions of other people, they made Australia their home. They accepted citizenship. They call themselves proud Australians, and we grew up going to school under the Australian flag. They're very proud of their Greek Cypriot background, but they regard themselves as Australians. And quite frankly, we accept everybody. We accept everybody. We just don't like the notion to be told that a particular race is above others in a country we all should be sharing equally as equals, including the Indigenous.
I think let's watch his video, and then I want to unpack a bit of that because it's interesting. It kind of sounded conflicting things you told me from the beginning to the middle of what you said. I actually agree 100% with what you just said, and let's watch this video.
As a libertarian, we're not afraid to cop a whipping in chamber, because we're going to go out tomorrow and tell our community about how weak some of our colleagues are in expressing their wishes and carrying out their wishes. Now, our community voted 64% overwhelmingly no to the voice to Parliament. Many in this chamber stood up and said no to the voice to Parliament. They indirectly implied that, oh no, this is an election issue for them. No, we don't agree with this. We'll carry out the wishes of our community. But here we are now, probably 8 weeks out from a federal election, and I don't expect any better from the Labor Party, but I am disappointed in the Liberal Party councillors that have come out and gone against this, because we have a federal Liberal leader on one hand says we must only unite under the one flag, which I agree with wholeheartedly, and under media conferences, and we have members of his own government and his own candidates saying there should not be no welcome to country. So I don't know why people are so afraid to touch this. Now, let's recap. Can we stop? I'm being interrupted. Now, let's recap the numbers, okay?
Explain to us what's happening there. Were you being interrupted by a loony leftist?
I was definitely being interrupted throughout by both sides of the chamber. Now, unfortunately, I had the Labor Party on the one side interrupting me. Then I was being disrupted by a Liberal Party councillor who wanted to intervene. Now, at the end of the day, if you're going to stand and hold a position, don't be afraid to be called out. Stand by your position. But yet they were constantly interjecting, saying that citizenship ceremonies happened under my watch. Stop lying to the community. I'm not lying to the community. I don't deny that. It's just 4 years ago, I drew a line and I said, enough is enough, because I got sick and tired of sitting through any event and then watching council bring in speakers to do a welcome to country and being told never was, never will be, never ceded stolen land.
This is great speech.
Is 0.6% of the population is Indigenous in Cumberland. Roughly 1,500 people. This is not an attack on the Indigenous people. This is about equality for all, standing shoulder to shoulder, side by side, hand in hand, everybody, residents, Indigenous, any nationality, as equals. Now, it rubs up our community the wrong way when they go past Granville East Public School and Granville South Public School and other public schools, and they say, Granville East Public School on Darug land. Sorry, last time I checked it was South Granville. It rubs our community the wrong way when we get welcome to country people, telling an acknowledgement to country speakers, telling us this country never was, never will be, never ceded, making them feel like second-class citizens. I've sat through them. And here we are, people of different nationalities, telling your community, we're telling the Chinese community, 12.6%. They don't matter. Bow down and do an acknowledgement of country. Your citizenship doesn't matter here. The Lebanese people, 11.
Take a seat, please, Councillor. Just a moment, please.
You can't interrupt with point of orders in a right of reply.
Councillor Christou, I'm going to ask you to please take your seat. We have a point of order.
You can't. It's a right of reply. Read your rules. And the time's ticking.
I've got a point of order, and I will hear the point of order.
I just wanted to clarify that one, Councillor.
I'm falling in love with you.
Can we stop the time, please? Thank you.
I wanted to go back.
It's a very wide-sweeping statement, and then it's err on the side of caution, respectfully, because in my speech I said we need to recognise...
What's your point of order, Councillor?
1511D, I was misrepresented.
You're misrepresented.
Yeah, okay, by the fact that the statement was made that we don't care about the Chinese and migrants. My speech clearly says we need to commend everything they've done. So he needs to be very careful.
Can you please
with the sweeping
clarify, Councillor Christou? Thank you.
Well, here we go. Whilst acknowledging Councillor Rami's comments that he represents and he respects all of our community, I hope Councillor Rami votes with me on this tonight.
I told you I'm not voting, and it's not for the matters you're saying.
Councillor Rami,
I'll go back, okay? Chinese, 12.6%. Lebanese, 11.9%. Australian, 10.6%. English, 9.2%. Indian, 8.7%. Nepalese, 4.8%. Okay? Our community made it very clear. The highest no vote in the country. The highest no vote in the country, no to the voice to Parliament. But here we are. We have some councillors in this room speaking against me and saying that this is not what our community wanted. I've been saying this for 4 years. I've gone out, first one to say that no to the voice to Parliament when it was unpopular to say so. And I remember then the Labor majority and the former mayor, who's no longer been elected, telling us, no, this is what our community want. Don't go against the grain of our community. I remember it crystal clear.
So did you recite welcome to country when you were the results
that came in,
Councillor Rami,
the results that came in from the Labor Party were.
I'm not going to have you lie in the chamber.
I'm not lying to you.
Did you recite it?
Councillor Rami.
Answer the question.
Councillor Rami.
Until we had enough.
Thank you, Councillor Rami.
I don't hide from that.
Thank you, Councillor.
And people catch the end of your speech and then jump on it. When you were there for 4 years, you never spoke about this one. Point of order.
You're only getting upset because you know what's going to happen.
Councillor Rami, we've got 27 seconds.
I didn't know there was this much action.
Councillor Rami, please. We've got 27 seconds of this. 27 seconds. Councillor Christou has the floor. Councillor Christou has...
If you really got upset, vote for it.
The clock has started, Councillor Christou.
Don't get upset. Stick by it. Okay. All right. Look, we see by the disruptions tonight... obviously upset the colleagues on this matter and triggered some people. So we leave it there, vote against it. I've done my bit. I've stood up for our residents. I've stood up for the majority of Australians that said no to the Voice to Parliament campaign. I'll leave it there.
No, you've lied to our residents.
I'm now going to put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Sorry.
I'm going to call for a division on this one. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
Alone.
Councillor Christou. All those against? Oh, hang on a minute. You've seconded the motion, Councillor Sarkis. So you're abstaining, are you? Okay, let me put it to the. So all those in favour, Councillor Christou's in favour. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Councillor Selvin, Councillor Yazza, Councillor Elmore, Councillor Saha, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Hamid, Deputy Mayor Zaida, Councillor Kafruni, Councillor Yang, Councillor Alf, Councillor Rami and Councillor Paul Garrard. How's that, Paul? I declare that lost. And we now move to illegal fireworks. Councillor, the only person who voted for it was Councillor Christou and the seconder abstained. Don't ask me what that means.
That is wild.
Yeah. It was entertaining. I want to watch
that
more
was that
of
was actually the most entertaining piece of footage from a council meeting. I've got to say, you've done well there. So, explain to us now. Rami was from. Is he Labor Liberal?
Joe Rami's a Liberal Party member, and my fellow Granville Ward.
Are you hearing his mic, or am I just losing that?
I can hear Steve.
Oh, you can hear him? Go. All right, sorry.
Yeah, Councillor Rami is a Liberal Party member, and we share the
Liberal
Granville
Party.
Ward. Yeah. Yeah.
What is going on?
Well, you'd have to ask him that, but in my humble opinion, I think when I touched on the Lebanese people, I think it irritated him because he's of Lebanese descent.
Yeah, we could tell, but why would that irritate him? That he, like, if what did you say that was offensive?
To be perfectly blunt, I don't think Councillor Rami liked the fact that he knows I've got a message to communicate and sell to the Lebanese community and the other community. And in my opinion, I think he's worked out deep down that it might hurt him a little bit for taking the position he's taken. But I can't speak for him. You'd have to ask, someone would have to ask him that. But, I don't know why he was getting so upset and making accusations to me that, I'm somehow lying to people because Welcome to Country happened under my watch. I've never denied that.
Mm.
So that's the Liberal Party. Who was on Labor? Is the mayor Labor?
The mayor is Labor, and we have a deputy mayor that is Liberal. And believe it or not, they in October those two parties got together and locked out the other councillors and did a deal for the mayorship and the deputy mayorship between themselves. And Labor was in minority. They had 5 elected. They couldn't get the mayorship without the help of another party. And we all had the numbers to either install a Liberal mayor and then have an independent in the next 2 years with the support of the Liberals. It all fell apart, and they went and did a deal with Labor.
Hmm.
And when you say the no, so what were the numbers for the referendum in your council?
64% voted no.
64% voted no, and you put forth a motion which essentially goes along the same lines as the referendum, and you stood alone.
Correct. And what I don't understand is Peter Dutton has openly come out and said if he wins government, he will cut public funding for Welcome to Country. So I don't and he wants elected members when they do press conferences to stand under the Australian flag, which I fully agree with. So I don't know what's happening over here and how seriously you can take those comments and those commitments from the Liberal Party when you can't even control as a federal leader 4 Liberal councillors on a local council.
It is wild.
Yeah,
I find that.
I think there's a broader point to all of this, right? Which is about, I definitely understand why you're doing this, Steve, and I understand the importance of getting rid of these type of welcome to country and acknowledgement of country and all this kind of stuff from official proceedings and how it can exclude people as well, despite whatever they try to frame it as. But this goes to the broader point that these type of issues continue to waste people's time. There needs to be a definitive end to this, and you would think the voice to Parliament would have ended all of this. And you put this motion up, yes, everyone votes for it because this is what the public they wanted. End of story. But it just continues on, and time is
on every level of government.
Yeah, time and energy and passion is spent on this issue, and it's not wrong to do that. I'm not accusing you of wasting time or something. I'm just saying that we're forced to deal with these issues because it is so in your face. They won't leave it alone.
No, and I get complaints all the time, in the workforce. During the working day, people are subjected to multiple welcome acknowledgements to country, just before meetings and whatnot, especially in government departments. It's so not productive, and it's force-fed down people's throats. People are just at the point, and it's like, enough. It's not an attack on the Indigenous people. It's like, we're all equals. Like, just stop. And I've spoken to many Indigenous people and a lot of prominent Indigenous leaders as well, and they all say the same thing. The Indigenous people that really need it in the rural communities are not seeing any benefit whatsoever by this woke nonsense. They're not seeing any aid or initiatives go out on the ground. The only ones the only ones winning are the elites in their community that sit on boards and get put in prominent positions. Look at the Indigenous ambassador and all the publicity that's come out recently on the business class flights and how much he's spent flying around the world. Now, in my personal opinion, why does an Indigenous ambassador need to travel the world? Like, if you're the ambassador for Indigenous issues, you're here to represent your community in Australia. Why do you need to go around the world?
Yeah, exactly.
This is what's rubbing people up the wrong way.
Yeah.
All this waste, we waste hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars a year, and yet we've got people starving on the street. We've got people working full-time jobs, sleeping in cars. People can barely able to pay the mortgage, the rent, the bills, and put food on the table to feed their children. But yet we've got the government and government departments wasting away hundreds of millions of dollars on this stuff, but really offering no help or any assistance to the real Indigenous people that need it. So this is why I've drawn a line and said no to this nonsense. But, unfortunately, my councillor colleagues had other ideas. But, hey, the community sees this and they'll judge.
I want to ask you a couple of things before you go. Firstly, so when we opened up and you told us that diversity is like essentially one of the great things of your council, what about diversity? And then you went on to say that you don't think diversity is really working at the moment. And I tend to agree. Like, I personally enjoy in Melbourne. I grew up in in a Jewish neighborhood, but then I moved when I was a teenager to around Murrumbina, Oakley area, which is a very Greek area, and it's on one hand, it really it's kind of an enclave that you almost feel like you're in Greece. They're playing their Greek music, especially back in the days, and you've got your Greek food and you've got neighborhood, but it's super safe and everyone's loving, and it's kind of a blend between Greece and Australia, and they're contributing. So I can see where that kind of diversity is great, but I don't think diversity is great for the sake of diversity, because then you look at, I don't know about Cumberland City Council, but I know some of your neighbourhood, we saw what happened yesterday outside that school. I don't think it's in your council.
It is. It
is your council.
It's in the heart of my ward.
There you go. So clearly diversity. So diversity is not working in your own council. So when you say the diversity is good, what is it about the diversity that you think is good?
No, look, what I meant was, like, and I speak for myself. I go down the street and, I'm born in Australia, an Australian man of Greek Cypriot background. I have my Lebanese mates, and, we all go and we have a drink together, we hang out together, we're very tight. I have my Greek mates, my Maltese mates. That's very good, okay? Now, I don't care what religion they're from, but there's a part of the world, there's a part of our society, not just in Cumberland, but in other local government areas as well, the 2% that aren't assimilating. And it's very concerning. People need to be able to feel safe in their local area, and we shouldn't hold extremist beliefs. And when we hold extremist beliefs, this is not the Australia that we know and love. And if you want to hold those views, you should reconsider your place here and maybe go and live in a country where they share those views, because it concerns me. I grew up in this country, and millions of others of Australians did. We went to school. We sang the national anthem every day. We were proud to be Australians.
Please take your seat. We have a point of order.
You can't. It's a right of reply.
Sorry, then. we loved it so much we're going to watch it again. Yeah,
we were proud. You're proud to be Australian. You never forget your background or your parents' background. You respect that. You hold that in high regard. But when I see the protests that are happening of late and how unsafe a lot of people are feeling, this is not Australia, and it's not right. And I'm sorry, I blame the Labor government for this. They are very, very weak, and they have encouraged this both at state and federal level. but in particular at federal level, because if they clamp down on it and were strict in the laws that they brought forward, people wouldn't feel as free to go out and openly intimidate people.
Yeah, I mean, concepts like welcome to country, I feel like for people that have come to this country as immigrants and stuff and are kind of more radicalized or extreme in certain views, seeing your country in Australia have things like, oh, well, you know, it's been colonized, we don't recognize it, it doesn't exist, we've never ceded sovereignty, and these kind of chants, and you see this, you see the same thing echo at the pro-Palestinian marches, for instance, where they're saying the same thing, standing next to Aboriginal leaders, for instance, in that community that share that same view. So it all kind of interacts with each other and creates this environment in this country where we don't really have this set identity, even though we should as Australians. It is always muddied by these things like welcome to country, you know, you don't belong here, and all these kind of things. It's crazy, like, to think that there's these different layers of what an Australian is based on, or what an Australian isn't. You know, it's insane that this is the country that we live in. And we're still very successful as a nation, but we have this massive thing hanging over our heads, like the sword of Damocles almost. It's always there, like, who are you?
I agree with you 100%. And, you know, we're losing our national identity in this country. Kids are going to school today and they're being shamed, you know, to not be proud to be Australian. They're being told that, you know, the Indigenous had their land stolen and we should constantly say sorry. And, you know, and it feeds off to other areas where people are protesting and being extreme. At the end of the day, we're all Australians. Love this country. Love where we're from. Leave your extremism back in the you know, back in the country that you left it. If you want that kind of life and that kind of culture, feel free to go over there and make a contribution there, but don't bring hate here. I don't care what part of the world you're from.
As a councillor, do you spend time in though, or you said at one point you were mayor or deputy mayor? Did you spend time going to?
I was mayor.
You're mayor. Did you go to Granville Boys High? Like, do you go there as part of your duty?
Look, I didn't go to Granville Boys High. I live 5 minutes down the road from there, and before that I used to live literally a 30-second walk from there. In early 2000s, and look, I know the population of the school, and to be honest, you know, it used to have a very bad reputation. It's now a very good school, but what I saw yesterday was very disappointing. I don't know what went wrong, but where's the education department in all this? Like,
well,
you know,
I think that it's wild to me that in a public school, that is a publicly funded school, that you've got this happening and you've got teachers leading the way in this. And I only spent about 20 minutes researching that school prior to filing a report today, because it has a long rap sheet of extremists that come out of that particular school. And how are we not all over this? How's the government, the state government or the local government? It's less of a council issue. I think it's more of a state government issue. But how are they not all over this? How has it even got to a point where you've got youth support workers that are publicly supporting, you know, pretty horrific sentiments, and then you've got, you know, kids that seem to be potentially on the edge of being either already radicalized or going to be radicalized in a public school system. It's not an Islamic school. It's not. It's literally a government funded school. Everybody that works in, including the youth worker who's in question, who's been told to work from home now, including him, they're all funded by the taxpayers, the New South Wales taxpayers. So how do you get to a point that that's happening, especially when you can see that there is such a long history of it?
Soft. Oh, look, it's soft and weak politicians. I think, you know, both Labor and Liberal state governments have gone, in particular Labor, have gone very soft on these kind of issues. Now, you know, where is the local state member for Granville to call this stuff out? You know, where is, you know, I believe she's a parliamentary secretary to the state leader, Chris Minns. You know, they should be calling this stuff out. The state premier should be banging his fist and demanding the leaders of the education department come to his office for a thorough dressing down and positions be reviewed. Like, you know, this isn't an attack on a particular nationality or religion. This is just a reality. It's not acceptable in any form, no matter where you're from. Now, you know, these events need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed for the future, no matter who does them. There needs to be a hard line drawn.
Yeah. Do locals there feel safe that are not a part of that radical group that's in that society? Like, are locals in that area? Do they feel this? Because I can see from the comments from people that comment on our work that are local, they say that this has been a problem for many years, and they've either
locals are used to it. Okay. Unfortunately, locals are used to it, and I'll say, the school itself actually had a very good reputation, and it picked up. It used to have a horrific reputation a few years ago.
I did the research today. I was shocked.
The last few years, a lot of work has gone into improving the image of the school, and it actually worked. That's why yesterday, what we saw yesterday was very, very disappointing, and there's just no excuse for it. And there need to be answers, and I know, even me now giving this interview, there's going to be opportunistic opponents of mine coming out and conveniently cutting clips and saying, oh, look at him, he's anti-Islamic and that. And it's not the case. I'm just saying bad behaviour is bad behaviour for you. I don't care whether you're Islamic, Catholic, Jewish, wherever, and it won't be tolerated across the board.
Well, I just don't think we should stand for any ideology in Australia that that hates us, that hates Australia. When I say us, I'm talking about Australia and fellow Australians. Like, and what we're seeing unfold there and in Bankstown and in those areas is a lot of this is coming to the surface. It's clearly been there, and with that particular school, there's several kids previously that have joined ISIS from that school. Like, this is not something new, and I agree with you. The state government, the state Labor government, all the Labor representatives in that area are too scared to say anything. You can see that, and probably for the reasons that you're saying now. I think you're particularly brave that you're willing to even talk about it, because I can see they will never. In fact, you saw what was that Labor MP in the Labor federal seat. He said nothing about the story that was actually going around the world. That was a massive story globally about the two nurses. He stayed silent.
I think it falls under Tony Burke, the immigration minister.
Yes, Tony Burke.
Hold on. No. There was another Labor guy that it falls. I'll tell you. I'll give you the name now. 1 second. And he didn't say anything about it. And this was what blew my mind. Here we go. It is Bankstown MP. And MP is Jason Clare, which is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's my federal member.
Your federal member, so Bankstown falls under his area. He didn't say anything when this global story had, was making waves, not just in Bankstown, not just in New South Wales, not just in Australia, around the world. Didn't say a word. And then weeks later, when a couple of Muslim women were attacked in Melbourne, and people rightfully condemned it, they said it was Islamophobic. It turned out to be a Turkish a Muslim woman, so I don't think it was actually Islamophobic, but and he jumped on that within minutes to condemn it. And I'm not an idiot. I know why he's doing that. He's doing it because he's speaking to his voter base. And if you allow that politics to grow, that's going to come out of your area. That's going to grow beyond there.
I agree. Look, I agree, but I'll also tell you, and there's no excuses for this, Jason is facing a very heavily funded campaign by Islamic Vote Matters endorsed candidate out here, a gentleman on my council, Councillor Ahmed Ouf. So, personally, I don't agree with staying silent when something's wrong. Something is wrong, and my morals and my conviction is you can't sell out your country for the sake of keeping a seat in Parliament. And I'm not saying Jason's doing this. I'm just speaking on behalf of myself. Like, when something's wrong,
I think the whole Labor Party is doing it. I think the Labor Party is doing that on a grand scale around the country.
That's what it feels like.
Look at the immigration nonsense we had the other day, where they've inducted like 12,000 immigration inductees, and we had all the Labor MPs invited. And the Liberals and the Independent, Di Lee apparently wasn't invited. Like, what a bunch of nonsense! Like, you can't sell out your country like that.
Are you? So are you officially? Are you part of the Libertarians, or are you just a Libertarian?
Yes,
Oh, you're in the
No,
Libertarian Party?
I'm a paid up member of the Libertarians, yes.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I really do love the Libertarians. So I didn't actually realise you were a Libertarian councillor, but well done, and well done on taking that fight to the council, and well done for staying strong even when it gets tough, because that's something Rukshan would never understand.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure to come on for the first time.
Steve.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Where can people find you before you go?
I'm on all media, X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, under the one name, Councillor Steve Christou.
Perfect.
Have a good night, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
We gotta get Steve on more. I'm gonna watch the Cumberland Council videos more often because
he's a
there's some fireworks there,
entertaining.
And he's actually in the heart of it. You know, he's a good resource.
Listen, I had to I wanted to see whether he would, and I can understand also living there, it not feeling safe. He's brave, and I think he knows that people are going to clip this and people are going to try take him out of context, and especially that he's here with me and that local area. He is probably going to have some people trying to give him a tough time tomorrow. In fact, I think I might clip it. I think it's important. Those are great. It's good on him. I fully support him, and
we actually need more of that. Like what he was saying, like, you know, that Jason Clare guy. Maybe he's afraid to say what he really thinks because of the outcome of the people that are running against him. This kind of Muslim vote that's being created, and I think the end result of that is we end up like the UK, where you have all these politicians too afraid to say anything. And by the time they do start talking about what's happened and how the country's changed so much, well, everyone's already in power that, you can't really change the direction anymore. You know what I mean? So we still have a chance in Australia to change a lot of this, but we need courageous voices, people to speak out against some of these things which are happening and just tell the truth of what's happening in their communities. For us, it's shocking to see a radicalized, school, for instance, and kids chanting and doing these things in a public school. But like you were saying, for the people there, they're used to it. And you're telling me that there's kids that have gone to ISIS and things like this. It's a part of the community. Like we have these kind of enclave style communities in Australia where there are more people who are being radicalized, who are disengaging with the Australian way of life and living in their own little worlds. And it's going to become more and more prevalent. And those communities and those areas of our country are going to hold more and more power as these population bases grow. And that is a reality that we have to face and contend with. So, it's refreshing to hear from Steve, and it's the truth.
We need more of Steve. I am fully endorsing Steve, and I think we've got to have him on more often. He makes so much sense, and we've got to watch some of the. I'm going to watch his. I'm going to tell him to send me any good one. Send me good clips. All right, guys. So we're just going to move over in a second over to the opposition.show. So www.theopposition.show for the Rebel News Plus subscribers that want to join us on there. And you can call in from there. We'll be there for a few minutes. We'll keep just unpacking what's going on. Thank you so much for joining us. Rukshan, what do you want to say before I just move us over to the private chat at theopposition.show?
Yeah, like I'm back. I'll be back on my shows from next week as well. So
are you doing your shows? I thought you gave up.
Nah, I didn't give up. I just took a bit of a break, man. So a little
bit
of a break.
You gave up because no one cared.
Nah. Bit too much heat. So just stepped back for a second. Now I'm coming back in. But yeah, you can find me at The Real Rukshan on X and all my other socials, Facebook, Instagram, all these kind of things, or at my website, www.realrukshan.com.
All right, guys, I'm going to log us out. We're going to be on the opposition.show for a few minutes for those of you that are Rebel News Plus subscribers and want to chat. Hope to see you there. Now you've just got to chat because I'm going to be manually... I really liked it.
What have I missed out on? What's the news? I know I missed out on the. I actually missed out on the launch of the trumpets of Patriots.